Americans need to stand up to the Republican Party. Check this out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Need to stand up to the GOP. I guess the question answers itself. We've got a lot to cover today. Why is the Republican Party trying to kill Grandma and Grandpa? I mean, seriously, we'll get into that. In our second hour, Professor Richard Wolff will be with us. What's the difference between the Fed and the Treasury? How does money come from each? How does it get to Americans or not? Business, all that kind of stuff. Let's get into that. And in our third hour, Nick Dearden is going to be with us for our science hour, our science segment anyway. Who should own the COVID vaccine that was funded by you and me, by we the people? So, number one, let me start at the beginning here. I think that what we are looking at right now is a crisis like we haven't seen since 1930. And Herbert Hoover ignored the Great Depression. He kept saying throughout this, the crash was in the fall and winter of 1929, and it lasted through 1930 and 1931 and 1932 and all the way up until March of 1933 when Franklin Roosevelt took over. During that entire period of time, Herbert Hoover was saying, this is just a normal downturn, not to worry, we're going to turn the corner at any minute. In fact, turn the corner was one of his favorite phrases. Where have we heard that before? Right? So we are now, and then FDR came in and fixed things, and hopefully that's how it's going to play out this time with Biden. But the reality is that we're right now in a very similar situation to the United States during the Republican Great Depression of the 1930s. And yes, that's what they called it back in the 1930s, the Republican Great Depression. And now the latest, the 2020 Republican scam, gives Donald Trump a small chance to hold on to the presidency. Yes, it's still there. Palmer and Hartmann, these two county folks in Michigan, have filed now an affidavit saying, no, we want to go back and say you can't certify the vote in Detroit. You can't count the votes of black people in Michigan. And Trump actually reached out and called these people and talked with them. And now they're like, oh yeah, let's stage a coup. And he's clearly doing the same thing in other swing states. And, trying to throw this into the 12th Amendment and the House, something that I've been talking about on this program for over a year now. And I think, the Democrats are just now seriously paying attention to. But in the process of permanently damaging American democracy, shredding the credibility of our electoral system, which, may have a silver lining if the outcome of this is that a Biden presidency and an activist Congress, this, particularly if we can win these two races in Georgia. And if you're not doing something right now to help Raphael Warnock, and John Ossoff and John Ossoff down in Georgia win those elections, go for it. There are so many ways to participate. The biggest one, of course, just being kick $50 or $10 or, $500 or whatever you can afford in their direction. But these guys, no matter what, these Republicans consider it a bonus if they're kneecapping and in some cases killing working class and poor Americans. I mean, the COVID deaths and diagnoses are exploding across the country. At the same time that New Zealand, Australia, Taiwan, South Korea, other countries that took this seriously from the get-go, their life is literally back to normal. There's a piece in either the New York Times or the Washington Post last night by a reporter who lives in Nova Scotia about how she worked out at the gym today and she's having lunch at the restaurant with her family and her kids are going to school and everything is good. Why? Because they took it seriously. They locked down initially, flushed out the virus, went to zero. There's not a single active case there. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. And meanwhile, Donald Trump's main strategy to hang on to power and become America's first actual dictator president has shifted away from the strategy of challenging vote counts, although he's continuing to do that. But, that's really the window dressing. That's the excuse. Right? If he can, he's now, the latest public opinion poll, 80% of Republicans think that Democrats stole the election from Trump. This is the effect of the President of the United States telling lies dozens of times a day on Twitter, hundreds of thousands of times a day on Facebook, and God only knows on television and radio, and then the entire 1,500 radio station, hundreds of television station, the entire Fox News network, billionaire, largely owned and controlled right-wing media machine echoing exactly what he's saying. So now his strategy is moving from trying to suppress the vote or not have the vote counted or disqualify voters. I mean, as I said, they're continuing to try and do all that stuff, but his strategy now is shifting to, well, let's just have some of the swing states' legislatures say, there's so much controversy around this. Keep in mind, the controversy is entirely coming out of Donald Trump's mouth. There's so much controversy about this, we really can't certify our electors. So why don't we just let the House of Representatives decide who's president? After all, the Constitution provides for that. It's right there in the 12th Amendment. And he's dead serious about this. And on top of that, he figures that if he can't even pull that off and stay in office, he's got 80% of the Republican donors now, and they'll continue to follow him. They'll provide him with a base. They'll come to his rallies. They'll love him. They'll send him money, which he desperately needs. I mean, he's raising millions of dollars a day right now from the poor suckers who support him. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives back in May passed legislation that actually quickly, clearly addresses the COVID crisis. It provides for ongoing unemployment payments, $600 a week to all unemployed Americans. It provides help to small businesses. It provides funding for hospitals and first responders, police, fire in the states, counties, and townships all across America. That legislation, the HEROES Act, was passed in May in the House of Representatives, and it's still sitting in the Senate, where Mitch McConnell refuses to even have a conversation about it. And the media seems unwilling to ask him about it. And only 4 of McConnell's Republican members have even acknowledged that Joe Biden won the election, which suggests that the rest of them are, getting ready for Trump to do a real power grab and say, yes, we will be senators in the first American dictatorship. If you're represented by Republicans at the state or federal level, they need to hear from you now. And you need to tell them, this is not America. This is not America. I mean, Senator Tina Brown yesterday tweeted out, today the Senate was insane. It is so detached from reality. We voted on judges, and McConnell got 6 more unqualified right-wing judges on the bench. We voted on judges and nearly confirmed an appointee to the Fed who believes in the gold standard. Meanwhile, a pandemic is raging, and we are doing nothing about it. The government's going to run out of money in about 3 weeks. We are doing nothing about that. One of our members apparently asked the Secretary of State of Georgia whether he could throw away actual legal votes, and we're doing nothing about that either. It has been 183 days since the House of Representatives passed the HEROES Act. It's been 47 days since the House passed. That was a $3 trillion bill. The Republicans said, that's too much money for average working people. So the House came back and said, well, how about $2 trillion? That was the second piece. That was passed 47 days ago. And 37 days from now, the day after Christmas, 12 million Americans are going to lose their unemployment benefits.